In the sky, a bird was heard to cry. Misty morning whisperings and gentle stirring sounds belie the deathly silence that lay all around. Hear the lark and hearken to the barking of the dog fox gone to ground. See the splashing of the kingfisher flashing to the water, and a river of green is sliding unseen beneath the trees, laughing as it passes through the endless summer, making for the sea. In the lazy water meadow, I lay it down. All around me, golden snowflakes settle. What's up? On the ground. How's it going, Pies? Bob? Um, I've been working, doing my thing, and contributing to the the worldly demise as it is, because, as I always say, less is more. And unfortunately, the way we all live civilization as it's played out, we create far too much pollution and trash to really sustain any type of global lifestyle. And so it's really sad. That's, I'm a part of it too. I can't really escape it. All the paint was stuck in my hair, man. All the paint was stuck in my hair. It was. I think the thing is vibrating too, though. But yeah, I got a haircut. I had to get the paint that was stuck up from the big clump in the back. So I was like, oh, well, shave it. And so my wife did. I had a bald spot up here for a little while. Oh well. It's only hair. It grows back. You know, a haircut every couple of years. Not very expensive. But at Marvel, because I was. Oh yeah, exactly. Lived the video last night. Nice. Lived. You lived it. You lived it. Well, that's why I chose the title of my channel to be Primary Truth, the Voice in the Wind, because John the Baptist was that voice in the wind who was just basically announcing the arrival of Jesus. So, you know, as important as he is, it can't be expressed enough, and so all you can do is kind of announce it, I guess. It's like try to make sure people are turned on to the truth. And I do think that the solution to civilization would be if people turned inward, settled their own affairs, and then turned further inward towards God, mentally and emotionally, not so much inward, whatever, but like towards thinking, towards irrationalizing, and towards getting a better idea of God, because it's the most important conversation you can ever have with yourself. I mean, no one else can do it for you. But that's hard to pass along to people, to the rationality of looking into God and comprehending all of that. I mean, the interesting thing is if you do, it makes perfect sense, and then you can move further and you can desire less and you can be more Christ-like. I mean, Christ was trying to teach us to be less of consumers, less participants in this world. Alleviate yourself from the suffering of this world by removing yourself from the actual play of it, you know, by spending more time with God, praying, or maybe helping the sick, healing the sick, healing the poverty, even though you have nothing. you'll always be taken care of. Civilization, on the other hand, only pretends to take care of us. We create jobs that are food stamp offices or things like, you know what I mean, social services, state parks, whatever, you know, social functions of the federal government. Well, the federal government is nonsense. Each state is its own government. And we've decided to unify in some respect, and then we've come together to become the United States of America in metaphor, not in truth, because we're still each individual state status and constitution is stronger than the federal government. We're like countries. We're a republic of United States, and so you know we need to take control of each state and say, well, what's going on here, and then what is the need and desire of our having a federal government at all, telling us what to do, where to go, you know, how, and fucking our economy up. So then, excuse me, then when we can't get it done, we require the help of the federal government in larger expenditures. So they trick us, and then we end up, you know, then they say, well, now you know, we're going to withhold money if you keep pot legal, let's say, for example, or um, uh, uh, some type of drug that isn't legal but you know helps cancer patients, whatever. Like they have that control by you know funneling and saying, well, you can't have this money. Or, well, that's nonsense. It doesn't really matter. We're not supposed to be funneling all our money towards the federal government to do what it does, which is fund the war machine and things of that nature. Selfish things. They're not really building an infrastructure for the country of roads and bridges and express trains and whatever it takes for the population to get along, whatever, you know what I mean? Churches get to file exempt. They have no culpability with their cash. That's a really sad. Well, because everybody, I mean, everybody's money should go towards the pool, I guess is what I'm saying. But beyond that, you know, I mean, there's no reason to exempt them because they're a church. I mean, if we should get rid of taxes completely, you know, we should be moving. These are if these are incorporated states and you know counties and further and so forth, which we should actually get rid of. I mean, incorporation just means business. I mean, our states don't have to be incorporated. Our towns don't have to be incorporated. However, you know, we can move away from the fight, and we're making no money as a town. Everyone's running in the red, and we're just taking money from people, and then these people aren't really doing their jobs necessarily. They're doing, you know, that becomes like mafia, like what family wants, you know, what family gets. You know, oh, I want to do, I'll do the roadway. You know, Uncle Jimmy's got a whole road crew, and so that type of stupidity going on in our state, local, and federal, all the way down the line of handing on work to people who aren't a qualified or probably family. They're tearing up, and, you know, and they're taking up jobs and money and things. It's getting done or whatever. So I'm not picking hard, but I'm saying like these are things each state could handle themselves, and then we could further improve outward and then not need a federal government at all, except for maybe in the respect of symbolically to deal with other countries, something stupid like that. Truly a figurehead president or whatever, the head of the federal government corporation, which is tax free because it's the federal government. Maybe we all give it like $50 a year or whatever, or whatever, not each, $1 a year, and so until we discorporate from the economy of how, because here's the thing, like as we head towards communism or socialism, or an attempt to cure what's going on with the poor people, the people who can't get work because there's really not enough work for everybody now that we've automated things. And so, I mean, there should be certain care too there on making sure that everybody, if we're going to play that game, yeah, the barge in Hawaii. So they said they sent it out on the 5th and it got there the 11th. I believe it's 6,000 miles to Hawaii. That's fast. You see that thing? Where's the motor? Where's the gas? Like, it's just a big barge of steel and windows and yeah, never seen anything quite like it. Um, to me, it seems sad that we would be shipping people out of Hawaii and sending them certainly to the mainland when we could just send them to Maui or Kauai or the other four islands, which are fine. In fact, only if you look at the island of Hawaii, only 1/60th of the island has this situation. They could easily push everyone over to another area and set up internment camps with porta potties and not internment, I'm kidding, but whatever, tent cities. But meanwhile, I mean, the islands are 12 miles apart or whatever it is, 25 miles apart. So you could easily do the same thing over in Maui and be like, here, just ship a bunch of people over for a while. They're all fucking related. They're all Japanese, excuse me. They're Hawaiian, whatever. They're there. They've been there. They... So anyway, the barges in Hawaii, I don't know. You become a skeptic on that level on, not that that's not what's being sent there, but like I say, the timeline of June 5th to June 11th and a barge actually showing up and 6 days travel. Where did it travel from? Where are these barges? Who's making these barges? They're just FEMA barges. That's like $1 billion barge. It looks like a poorly made cruise ship. It does look like a prison. I'll have to give it that. But so, I mean, they're just waiting around. So that seems stupid. They're obviously have been sitting outside of Hawaii, and that might lend more towards the credence of some type of object in outer space, like a bad James Bond film that has sent down energy with HARP to disrupt Hawaii. I'm just saying, if you follow that premise, and then to make this a problem, they've already been waiting to evacuate these people, and so yeah, it does look like a floating prison. And so then the premise being, obviously, if you get rid of all these people, now that land's being made, then these people will have a place to be. I mean, in America, and then there'll be that many less people in Hawaii, and only the rich people will be there. Perhaps that's what's going. Perhaps in, like, once they clear out most of the people, and then declare it a devastation zone, and you can't go back, there'll only be like 200 people there, and then they'll be like, score, paradise. I mean, it is a handsome fantasy premise, and I wouldn't put it past rich people. If I were filthy rich, I wouldn't want to look at anybody. I'd want an island the size of Australia that only my family could live on, maybe with some guns to protect myself from the kangaroos. But like, it, I'm kidding, but like, I can see why people get into that mode, and so I don't. Otherwise, like I said, you would just ship the Hawaiians to the next island and let the place calm down. It's a once in a 500 year eruption. It'll calm down. It's going to run out of activity at some point. Either that or it's going to blow magnificently like nobody's ever heard of on Earth, and that's a whole other thing, and nobody's prepared for that ever. But they might as well hang around and die. That's what they'd love to do. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to put them on barges unless there's a goddamn water slide, Why didn't they just ship out some cruise ships? What are we talking about? 150,000 people? No. Anyway. So, I mean, let's see about, enjoy your dinner. What I hope for the people in Hawaii is that they don't have to leave and they can just be nearby until whatever happens, because I'm sure they don't really want to leave. They don't really have a better place to go, and going home is, or what, eventually is a hope, and you're not going to get there if you're in America. I'm not going to say they deter you, but I mean, they could easily say it's not safe yet and deter you when you can be in Kauai. That's all we can do is pray. Jesus, I hope this is a part of your awesome plan to make everybody closer together and follow your lead, and that everybody's safe. But the flesh itself is not permanent. We when we go to meet Jesus will not be in the flesh. That's not the point. The flesh is corrupt and it's sin, and so what we're end up going to do is we're going to end up going on in our reborn spirits if we've connected with Jesus. And that's why we're meant to be beacons of light, to turn people on to the idea of Jesus, so they too can wake up, and in waking up, that means the Holy Spirit has woken up inside of them, and that being that person who realizes Jesus conquered death will just move forward. And so, like I say, that's why I don't think that a lot of these people really want to leave. Just get them off in a corner while they can watch it all go down. We all kind of want to. That's a good way to die. That's why it's always hard to find people leaving their homes, even in disasters, because, I mean, it's your life. What does it matter? At some point, like you're moved into the moment and you want to have a resolution, but if you don't have a home, your life is essentially over. So it becomes very emotional. Civilization on a grand scale, we have to figure out how we can live with less. And we need to, if we're going to continue with making computers and things of the nature which are so far out of our realm in health and we have the waves that come off of our Wi-Fi routers, we have telephone waves, we have 5G, 4G, 3G, cell towers everywhere. They're all disrupting the waves of the universe. We have to be aware of that. They're disrupting our bodies. They're causing children, probably now that they live in these waves, to grow differently than I had to grow, and we have vaccines and things of that nature. Less is always better. If we could manifest in humanity a way to want to live with no need to make things except for maybe candles, houses. We don't really need a lot of books. Books are great, but we don't need a lot of energy, really. But we've gone really overboard with our needs. Cars, we drive everywhere, we fly everywhere. Now we're looking to travel through time and in space, and well, that requires energy. And in one of my previous videos, I talked briefly about entropy, which says the universe only has so much energy, and when you use it up, it's gone. But I'm talking about pollution, so maybe entropy and pollution are the same thing. But civilization, now, for example, in California, they want to split the state into 3 parts, and then drop culpability or awareness of other parts, and let those parts fend for themselves, essentially, which was not the purpose of the unification of the United States and the Republic, and supporting each other and helping each other. So removing the influence of the federal government is going to be key, but also each state has to figure out how it can maintain itself without any federal government interference at all, just friendly hellos. we're close, but we we honestly waste too much money on policing and senators, congressmen, governors, assistants, blah blah blahs, and our roads are failing, our bridges are starting to fail, our courts are criminal. I mean, there are things happening all over the place, and we're letting them get away with it. And I mean, I realize that's not easy to change, but civilization is not going to last long when the criminality of everything is so present. We need a pole reversal of everything that's going on in what we call government. And I realize part of it is, well, the honest, good people aren't participating in government. They're allowing people who are dishonest and selfish to get into government and not do their function. And so that's part of it, but getting rid of it completely on the federal level would be a great start. Any influence on the states. They don't have that constitutional right anyway. The Federal Reserve is a farce. That was never meant to be real. They slid it in on us that it's a private corporation. It's not. That the only power imbued with the right to Congress. Hey babe, it's my son. How was work?
Oh, long, not really. 3 hours.
Cool.
Tell me, you live streaming? How many people? One. Close stream.
And so, if we're going to make civilization work, because the ultimate goal, I would think, is that we are so wealthy as nations. And it may take thousands more years, but in a very positive, wealthy, awesome nation, we would take care of everybody. And if we can't, then we've done something very wrong. And so that's where we're at as a civilization. Right now, we're not benefiting each other, and so it's very selfish. There are billionaires, there are trillionaires, there are, the Rothschild family, the Rockefellers, the billionaires. There are hundreds of millionaires, but none of them, even though they're doing charity of some pretend sort, they're not really benefiting mankind. They're looking out for their money. But now we're considering giving money to people to have a standard of living, because we know there's no work. We've already done food stamps. We've already done, I couldn't think of the word, but other forms of poverty payouts. But that's a civilization based on the wealth of individuals. So it's almost Hinduistic or whatever, the caste system. We're all stuck in the caste system. You're not ever going to be a billionaire or a millionaire, someone of hundreds of millions of dollars who thinks you're important, but then you found out there are hundreds of billionaires and people with hundreds of billions of dollars. And then you found out there are trillionaires. So, but that's all things to worry about if you're interested in fixing civilization. Otherwise, we're just going to have to kind of get along, and everybody's going to be a victim of it.
I'm going to Nolan's house, Apple.
Why don't you get changed? Though?
Yeah, no, I'm going to. I don't know.
So we talk about going to space, and we talk about moving on to different horizons. Well, the different horizon we're really thinking about spiritually is just what would it be like to recreate civilization. So, like in a utopian sense, like Atlantis, what we think Atlantis might have been like, we take care of each other. The gardens are really amazing. There's fruit and veggies everywhere. There's endless food for everybody. The animals are really healthy. Instead, we're creating nuclear weapons. We're creating lasers. We're trying to crack a hole in the sky. We're trying to create black holes on Earth. We're wasting energy. We're wasting time. We're not really nurturing the things that what the poets and the people who we cherish write about. We're speedily, busily moving around, but we're getting nowhere. So I do think there's plenty of everything for everybody, but as long as we continue to live this way, it could. I mean, right now there's a garbage patch in the Pacific Ocean the size of Texas. I mean, we wonder why the animals are acting funny. They're like they're all very sensitive, and we have cell phone energy everywhere in the world now. We have Wi-Fi leaking out everywhere of our houses, everywhere. And even though my phone can't pick up your Wi-Fi, I bet a bird can, and a bat who requires like a nice quiet environment so then it can use its radar to bounce off of objects or sonar or whatever you call it. The whole world is, a little upset at our technological endeavors. I mean, I hate to admit it. So we're going to see the consequences of that. Is the Kilauea volcano just caused by our Wi-Fi and things like that? That's possible. Just the oversaturation. It's already a weak zone. I mean, obviously there was a geothermal plant next door that could have caused it. But it's our activity which is what's causing problems, and we gain nothing. What is the greatest book that's been written in the last 100 years that compares to Shakespeare or the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or the Quran? Or, I mean, what are these great books? What are these things we're doing now that justify civilization? TV, commercials, bad movies. It's all very fanciful, but it's not. It's not space age. It's not new age. It's not brilliant. It's kind of like biding time. So I feel bad for civilization. There is some laziness and luxury, I guess you would call it, like babying, like. But in the end, it won't be worth it because there'll be no pristine civilizations that we can go to look out and behold the.
Oh, we go around tennis.
You can't take the car though.
Why not?
Because Mom doesn't want you out after dark.
Dad, come on. I'm driving to no one's house.
No, it's like college. It's school.
Dad, I'm driving literally up to no one's house. I'm gonna get pulled over. I don't think she'll mind. I'm driving literally. I'll be going for you.
Anyway, my son has just gotten his license, so now the world can be terrorized by another person who looks forward to adding to civilization instead of taking away. But I did enjoy driving, and I don't mind it. I do think, like I said, we're not really creating a new world for all of us to live in that's more like the Garden of Eden. We're continuing to make a world that's all about energy and speed and well, I don't want to say selfishness, but I mean, when I think of how many guitars continue to be made, are sitting in stores, is it ever enough? Hey Rick, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by. Think of how many things we make on a daily basis: guitars, cars, bars, sitars, cigars, whatever. I mean, just sitting around, like, can we just not get an agreement and make enough for everybody? Share. What's it gonna take? Like I said, I'm not saying communism, but I'm saying at some point, after 100,000 years, as we developed as beings, that Atlantean utopia would be, we would stop making and polluting, and we would have enough. You have five or six in the garage. I bet you do. More the merrier. Well, I mean, we just make, make. So if we could curb that and get into, like, maybe, like I said, instead of maybe slapping tar down everywhere, throw up some cobble roads, make stuff that would last for a while. Where's our longevity? The homes, they could use good homes. Ooh, sounds like an advertisement. The homes in Italy, 1,000 years old, 600 years old. Think longevity, But we're just, like I said, we're everything's faster, but we're not necessarily making something. Even if we were to go to Mars and to travel to another place, it's only going to bring you a different view. I mean, it's not going to change you, who just needs food and sleep and sex if you want to reproduce your DNA. A few subtle needs. But as far as I know, almost everybody I've ever met enjoys, say, like Angel Falls in Brazil, this brilliant 1,000-foot falls with the rainbow and the caw of the bird, caw, caw, caw. The world is fine. It's the people who are fucked. Well, exactly. It's because we're selfish. We're like, oh, well, I mean, one guitar is not enough. I need a triple neck guitar. I need one for every day of the week. You know what I mean? And then I need to, like, put them behind glass cases and then make it so people can never touch them. People are messed up. They're selfish. They're gonna put it in the conditioned thing, so they need like 6 air conditioners out back, like these giant things, so that all their equipment is. And yet there's a Stradivarius that's been around for 500 years before any technology. And so those are the things I'm talking about. Make something that's worth protecting. Is it worth, like, fighting for? I don't know, but I mean, I guess, in some respects, yeah, I suppose it is. And um, because it was handmade and it sounds great, and everyone's still in agreement or whatever. It doesn't sound great in my hands to play a Stradivarius. However, it was a hand. I mean, that's the purpose of great things. They were handmade, and we're kind of veering from that into these computerized ideas, where we're going to actually rely on computers to make us movies. When I've got a bookshelf over there of 100 stories that people probably haven't even heard of that would make great movies. Not exactly. This one has a tag on it. Can I touch that one? No, you've seen enough of that one. Yeah, it is fabulous to have a lot, and it's okay to. I'm not picking on people. I mean, we have what we have, but I mean, how much more do we need? Can't we just maybe, like, make some little mini shacks for the homeless, and give them, like, a little card that says they get free food until they feel embarrassed, and then they give it to somebody else who needs it? Like, there's a little bit of Taoism in the idea that you need to help people out, and then when they get embarrassed, they will feel free to return the favor to somebody else. I've done it. But if you continue to stymie them and to hold them off, so they can't have that. Instead, we put all our focus, like I said, on these objects that they can't have, and so they're going to rob things, they're going to take things, they're going to. You almost just need to make the things free, and then they will put them back when they're done. If there's no money to be made in selling these things, no one will steal those things. How's that for a revolutionary concept in stupidity? But that's where we're headed as you trek up the ladder of utopia towards, like, well, why not? Possessions are obsessions, mean you're possessed. They possess you. I work, I have this nice guitar. It's a Martin guitar, like, costs more than $42. Um, but should I lose sleep about it? Like, you've definitely lost the game if you worry about the objects you have. I gave up a long time ago, even worrying about the drawings I make, because there was a time where I was like, I've done so much art, like, I hope it doesn't burn, I hope it doesn't. And I was like, whatever. Like, I just gave up. Like, I was like, it's not important. They're objects, even though it's my time and energy, and it's not just a Gibson or a guitar or an amplifier. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think like an amplifier is so important that you can't replace it with another. Compared to art. However, I had to realize even my art, like this picture I drew or this picture, like if they burn, it's really sad, but it's not the end of the world. Like, it's just, it is irreplaceable. And that would be great if in time that we, focus more on things that are irreplaceable, like the beautiful things that we've found through archaeology and all those things, and less on making spaceships and things to nonsense, just nonsense, and wasting, like I said, fuel, because everything in the universe is bowing down to the law of entropy. So whatever we use, we are then taking from the length of time the universe can exist. When you use something, there is less energy in the end. That's entropy. So we have to be careful. We have to, not just for cars, not for planes, even just taking energy from the sun. Like, we need to use less always. And like I've said, even in the past, it's conceivable that the moral of the story of the Garden of Eden is that we weren't meant to eat at all. We were meant to be. Like my picture, sit and be and commune with God and observe the just the phenomena of God, and just try to absorb it, and because it's infinite. It's out here is the illusion. That's Satan, the delusion. God will lend you to have much knowledge and things, like to believe many things, and we believe them. Radio and TV and magazines and science and astronomy, and they're all brilliant. But I mean, honestly, that's the great delusion. By sitting and communing with God and not doing anything and just thinking about God, you're like starting to get an idea. Because the ultimate definition of God is that there's no definable way to define God. It's the creator of things. So as we want to perfect civilization, heading back towards Atlantis or whatever utopia, and we will, everyone will be taken care of. What else would it look like? But like I said, everything would be free. And then you don't have any way to steal, because there's no reason to steal because it's free. And then also you can't sell it because no one would buy it because it's also free. But as long as we are trapped in the money system, then we're going to have to suffer the incorporation of all of our law systems and our states and our vehicles and the registrations, and then the federal government picking on the little states, and then we have to deal with uh, United Nations, or the New World Order, this conglomerate of world powers, which I mean nobody should worry about at all. I mean, we're all free men. They're going to persecute you one way or another, but I mean, you're born a free person. You also have to, not be a stupid person either. And the better person you are, the less likely the law will ever even know you exist. Me standing on the corner and screaming about Jesus Christ is hardly going to get anybody's attention. Where I live, there's other ways, but I'm not afraid of the world I live in, and no one should be. However, it's turning into a pit. um, when I was, so it was 1980, I'm going to say 86. There was an article in the paper I read that said the United Nations had declared a red alert on the soil damage of the world. So if that was the case back then, like what is the case of the world? You know what I mean? It's a fragile environment, and I think we've done our best in America, especially to curb how we were treating it in some respects, polluting into rivers, things of that nature. However, I don't think we stopped polluting, and so we shouldn't be surprised that it's not forever maintainable that way. Um, a new attitude has to be created, and that's why I like that saying, think local. Most of the things that we really need can be carved from a tree, or maybe forged from a piece of metal, but simply um, we don't need plutonium or things of that nature. But anyway, if we can't escape that, we're polluting. We're stealing from energy. So, like I said, I'm guilty too. Like I've got a light bulb on. I'm talking to you online, so it's not a perfect world, but that would almost require pulling the plug. I don't know if there's a way we can have energy that isn't a way of cheating almost. Because I don't even know if solar's the right way to create energy. I mean, Tesla, if we're to believe this character is even real, right? Energy right from the sky. Is that the way to go? I mean, I just don't know if we need energy at all. There's a point there where you get into, are we psychic? I mean, if you're taking energy from the sky, do we really even need energy at all? Shouldn't we have power? Or if we investigate it further, are we going to get into levitation and things, telekinesis of thoughts? And if energy can just be taken from the sky, now of course it's never been just demonstrated to modern man. Things of that nature have been hinted at, but I think they're all pipe dreams, because I think we know that we're taking this energy from the universe, and then there's a depletion under us, because we're a balance at first, and then it has a magnetosphere, and it has a core, which is a certain type of metal. We're humans, we have positive and a negative, but so does the moon and the sun and the earth. We look just like protons and electrons around an atom, no surprise. even though they've never been seen, but the math presents us as a solar system, those little atoms. It's because there's negative and positive and polarities, and when you start to take away energy from that, you end up with another type of atom. You know, that's the idea of the array of atoms. Is you have a hydrogen, and that has one, and then a helium is two, and then lithium, and down the line carbon six. And basically you're splitting, you're adding, you're creating more electrons and protons of the same hydrogen atom down the line until it's so down the line that's the number 113 or 110, and it's radioactive. And that means it's losing energy so much because it's so unstable, and it wants to go back to being something down in the ones and twos and threes and fives and well, threes and fours. You know, carbon, it's not all that stable, but when it's up high, you know, like plutonium or whatever, way high, 112, whatever, all these things that we have to keep making up names, they're really unstable. They last like 2 seconds in the universe because they don't want, they're radioactive. They don't want to be existing at all. They want to go back to being hydrogen. The whole universe scientifically is 75% hydrogen and then 23% helium. Well, I think the Bible agrees with the idea of us living under a dome too, yeah. And there's actually, I won't be able to think of the name right now, but there's some YouTube videos about us in the 1940s trying to, our first attempts with nuclear weapons were to smash the dome. And we did many of those tests in the Bikini Islands, I believe, that area where we weren't necessarily blowing them up in the water, we were shooting them up to see what we could do. And so now there's actually a theory that we did crack the thermosphere or whatever, the actual vaulted dome, and that's why our magnetosphere is out of control now, because however that happened and whatever that, you know, because remember, it's energy. I mean, it's probably not glass and it's probably not water. I mean, these are energetic fields of the magnet. You can't penetrate the magnet, right? You can't, when you push a ball at a ball and they're magnetically opposed, you never really touch. They reject each other. And so that's the top of our dome. Whatever's in outer space, we can only imagine whatever it is. And that's a separate density of energy that in the dome ceiling is something you just can't penetrate. We like to think you can push through at a certain speed, but it's a field that you can't, it's a radiation. It's a radiation field, like the Van Allen belt, which is so radioactive that if you were in a metal spaceship, it would treat you like a chicken wing and you'd be cooked like a microwave oven. How do you, from Earth, never having been to space, design a spaceship and a spacesuit that will get you through the Van Allen belt, possibly, 10,000 miles wide, something of that nature, possibly bigger. But it's the final, like, shield of the Earth, this radiation before you're into space. And you design all this, and it looks like a terrible suit. It doesn't look like it'll do anything. And that protects you from this. And then you pass through it twice. And meanwhile, you've got oxygen the whole time. All right, so Isaac Asimov says you have to go 25,000 miles per second to leave the planet. That's escape velocity, mathematically. They kick the rocket booster off when they leave, right? So they get to the moon, they land, they drop off a space buggy, and then they also have enough power to leave the surface of the moon. Exactly. Now NASA doesn't even know if their shielding works. So now they left the moon, which has the 1/6 of the gravity of Earth. So instead of going 25,000 miles per second, you have to go whatever 7 or whatever, something, or 4. But still, where was all that fuel? There's definitely some problems with that narrative. So I prefer to think that that was symbolic. July 20th, 1969, which just happens to be 2 days after my birthday. Astrologically, the moon was like in the right house for Cancer, and that's 69, and that's all moon symbolism. So it's just very symbolic for that. It had nothing to do with us going anywhere. Um, there's no need to go to the moon. There was no need. I mean, they know. Some of the people who are in power and Satanists and Kabbalists and weirdos believe in the Bible and God more than some of us who talk about God. So civilization is meant to contain the stupid people, which they call the goyim, the sheep, or the sheeple, whatever, that's us. They don't care if you wake up or don't. I mean, society is so far along now for the past 100 years or 200 years that I believe there's a collective amnesia put over most of society, and actually they've done something with written history in such a way that we'll never know how long ago Jesus died or any of that time frame. So we're pretty much in dire straits that way. And we don't have, you know, a way easily like Indiana Jones to ferret out the truth in that respect, as far as how much they're manipulating history through the texts and times and keeping us fed with entertainment and possessions. To me, ultimately, if we can let go of our desire for possessions, we'll be only hurting the enemy. Um, like I said, you would still have time to be with family and friends, and I mean, it's just. Oh, does it? NASA and humor means to deceive. Wonderful. Wow. Well, I think it's metaphorical too. You know what I mean? We want that other place of adventure. It helps support that atheism that they tried to foster on mankind, that the universe is infinite and so it doesn't even need a god. Um, and that wouldn't do the devil much good because that just makes an atheist. But I guess the devil might just laugh and say, well, at least they don't believe in God. But I still believe in the grandiose nature of the universe. I have no comment on what's really happening. I do believe we can observe the motions and that nature, and there's a marvel to it all, but it's not the focus of life. It's because God had to make the universe. That was a bit of the clockwork mechanism on why things appear the way they are. There's light and there's dark and there's stars. I mean, we only sit back in ponderance and go, oh yeah, well that's pretty normal. There's stars moving around circles, and we just travel around the sun, and that's all really good. Like, well, that took thousands of years to digest if you're going to believe history, and people died for you to have that information. Copernicus, was jailed, and in the end, I think it's kind of not important, is what I mean to say. In my other video, I was talking about how what's interesting, if you look at the concept of squaring the circle, is I think what they were trying to portray ultimately spiritually is that from our perspective on Earth, you can't see whether it's flat or a sphere. It's only by observation can you say that we're moving. And so it's like a spiritual thing. It's when you have symbology like that the Freemasons are trying to use, or the other peoples, what they're, the Hebrews or whatever, they're trying to talk about elements and forces of the universe, characteristics of beliefs and ideas. Well, I think it's in the Book of Enoch that where supposedly the earth is in some type of ornate box, and we're the footstool of God. Um, Makes sense, actually. I mean, there's a H.P. Lovecraft quote. I wish I could draw it up right now for you, but essentially the gist of it is that the infinity of space is so vast, and we were not meant to travel far. Essentially, it wouldn't matter how far you could travel right now. If you could go the speed of light. All right, here's an example Joseph Campbell gave. He said, and he's dead now, he's a mythologist. He said if Jesus died and he traveled at the speed of light, right now, after 2,000 years, he would not have left our galaxy. That's how big our galaxy is. It's 5 trillion light years across. So if you're to start taking space literally, H.P. Lovecraft was saying, then essentially the vastness of space is so big that even the mind can barely comprehend how to get to the end of it, if that's where we're trapped. And that's why you surrender to God. Well, you measure that with your mind. And that's what the Greeks did, right? They broke reality down with their mind and they found the atom. They used reason. Well, you can't comprehend anything in outer space terms. 1 astronomical unit, which is the Earth to the moon, 93 million miles. Well, I can almost comprehend that. But then to imagine that we balance our thought and say, well, 93 astronomical units, that's how far Nibiru is, or whatever it is, 6,000, astronomical units. You can't even put that into perspective. If I were the sun and you were the earth, then Nibiru, if it were real, when it goes to its furthest part of its orbit, would still not be on Earth. How do you even? I mean, numbers get you a little ways, but how do you comprehend all that? So what you have to do is not even bother in that sense of looking for a final truth out of that. I mean, that should teach you in a sense that they can give you scope, they can give you ideas, but when it comes to that, that's the realm of God, like infinity. God is the creator of all those ideas, and the important thing is God, not the idea. The idea is the trap. Does it really matter how fast we're spinning? I did like the idea. I saw a video, and I don't know how you'd look it up, but a guy, I believe he's European, made a video of what he believed he was observing from our motions going around the sun. But it makes like a corkscrew. So all of the planets are doing their corkscrews around the sun, and yet we're going through space, and we're all that's making a corkscrew motion as well, because it's like a spiral. And I was like, well, that just adds to the beauty of it all. Can I even see that in real life? No. But that's what the beauty of the numbers have done. But that isn't going to make us a better civilization. It might just feed to our fancies a little and make it worse. I don't know. But, as long as we keep it in the realm of math, we're fine. But we're never going to find anything bigger than the Earth. It's here. It's now. We are in the Garden of Eden. And all we've done is bring machines in and ruin it. We never left. We just put on pants, hard hats, built fancy computers that don't do anything. Can a computer be better than the crystal clear waters of Hawaii or the tropics? Or, I mean, that's what we're up against. You know, the BP spill still is happening, or happened so badly that you probably shouldn't eat fish from that part of the ocean ever again. Fukushima is still happening. We're spoiling the earth. You know, we should be doing less of that if we can help it. I realize people believe we're fuel dependent, but I don't think to that degree. I mean, most of us work because we, instead of knowing how to fix something or to do something, we hire somebody. So if we could escape from that, and basically, like I said, that just really requires breaking the spell of thinking my needs are greater than the simple ones. This the snake in the fruit tree, I believe, is existence. So, male and female were made children, and so we fell into, instead of, because it says in the Bible, it says, does it not say, "Ye are gods, ye are the children of God"? So essentially, we decided to have sex and eat food, and so we've fallen into death, and that's why Jesus fasted and abstained from sex, because those are the hallmarks of what it means to be godlike, is to abstain from existence. Everything in existence is sin. Abstaining from existence is to be godlike. And so the snake, the absolute, I have not fathomed why a snake exists at all in concept, and why it's associated with the devil, except that, like, the statement of to crawl on your belly like a snake. But I mean, you know, they say wise as a snake, so I haven't. There are other mythologies, and in the zodiac, the I don't have a picture, but there's the 13th sign, Ophiuchus, of the zodiac, and he's wrestling a snake. There's a story in India, I believe, where the universe was created by a great battle between a man and the snake, and he, at the end, gutted the snake, and the universe was created. It's a long story, but there, like I said, there's metaphor involved, so I'm not sure why it came out that way in the Garden of Eden to be a serpent. There's certainly a lot of stories on Earth of serpent people, demons, and things of that nature are created with serpent skin. The Ouroboros, the serpent bites its tail. So, you know, that's the beauty of God. That's the, who can really say, like, it's only to become aware, because even when Jesus was fasting, he was confronted by a black asp, I want to say, another serpent, and it's just it's a symbol of power, I guess, maybe. The weakness of the human as opposed to this creature. The weakness in humans is to put stock in possessions, not, you know, not God, you know. But what I meant by us being in the Garden of Eden is we could be there, not the real Garden of Eden, or whatever that was, but I mean, we could be more into the earthy paradise of life itself by just having less needs. Because the Bible's so not distinct on what the Garden of Eden really was like, I couldn't say if that's still on earth. But, there's a little bit of oddity to earth, like I said, it's very easy to treat it like a globe. It's sometimes easy to treat it like it's flat. Sometimes I think it's even easy to treat it like a teardrop shape, and that it's really inverted, like inside of a water droplet. We don't really know, but we know that there's probably places on Earth we still haven't discovered, and that maybe there's just a straight path of things right to heaven, and it's all one thing, and that we move from Earth throughout the ocean to a whole nother place, like in Lord of the Rings, when all of the story is done, all the elves get in boats and they go to the summer country. We don't get in or out. But like I say, I mean, ultimately we don't know. We live in this honestly a disinformation age where if your only source of information is the internet, then you probably don't want to be making bombs. I mean, how you can trust any of that information is beyond me. It's all been edited and shrunk down. It's hardly reliable. If you don't have a good book from a reliable source, I wouldn't trust the internet for much. And so that's the civilization we live in. A lot of people live fast and hard on internet style living, and I think we're gonna rue that. I mean, it's not going to be immediate, but it's going to make a different type of people on Earth. We've already seen it with their inability to look up. Things are changing, and that's a road we don't have to go down. We can simply just reel it. But doesn't everybody just want to go fishing and kayaking and help raise a barn? Help out in the community, watch some kids for a while the women go do some, I don't know, like, what are we really making with, spaceship cars and sending cars to space and all these satellites? What are all these satellites really doing? Who cares if we can see the outside of our Earth from a satellite or a plane? I mean, like I said, we're polluting the world doing it. We're chewing up resources. We're screwing our entropy by using up the given energy of the universe. And you're creating a class distinction by not allowing some people wealth. And so we have some issues to tackle. And I think the best one to tackle would be for everyone to just get their states in order. Because if that's what's my battery's dying. So if that's what happens next, is there are problems, then at least our states are ready to go. Anyway, I guess my battery's dying. I'm so glad everyone came by. I think there's hope, definitely, but I do think that if we can just get everything to funnel down to less usage and less desires and less needs. Yeah, that's right. When we find out what we are, then we get wiped. Well, and then you don't know. So anyway, in the name of Jesus, I bless everybody, and everyone have a great night. And we'll talk again soon. Bye.